The Texas A&M Aggies lost a recruit to Bill Belichick in the North Carolina Tar Heels. And this player's a guy I was really excited about.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. The all-new Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Nissan Armada Team of the Week later in the episode. We are getting ready to talk on the show today, ladies and gentlemen, about what it's going to take for the basketball team to make a run in the NCAA Tournament. We're going to talk about why I'm happy that Texas A&M's keeping the spring game. Some teams are going away from it. Pros and cons, and I'll tell you my thoughts on that. But we're going to start the show talking about how Texas A&M lost a 4-star recruit to Bill Belichick in the North Carolina Tar Heels. So we found out that Trashawn Ruffin, yesterday on the 17th, Trashawn Ruffin, the 6'3", 307-pound defensive lineman from the state of North Carolina, Mount Olive, North Carolina, decides to flip his commitment from Texas A&M to North Carolina. And, you know, I went on the Portal, a new Locked On show with Brian Smith, who's, you know, our big recruiting guy here, and talked about Trashawn Ruffin. And he was a guy that I was really fired up about. Texas A&M needs more beef in the middle. You know, you lost a lot of guys to the next level. You've got some veteran guys that are going to kind of make up the interior of your defensive line this season. You need to beef up that defensive line. And if you look at the current defensive line commits for 2026 for the Aggies, you've got Jordan Carter, who's an edge rusher, 6'4", 235, not a beefy guy. You've got Sam Mwala, the edge rusher, 6'4", 225. Once again, not a beefy guy. And then the guy that we talked about that committed a few months ago, or maybe it was weeks ago. It was February, about a month ago, actually. And that's Jermaine Kinsler, the 6'7", 260-pound defensive lineman. You know, he's kind of got that frame to become a real beefy defensive lineman, but that's it right now. And I know it's early in this class. I mean, I'll come back to y'all and gripe about this at the end of June and July. Like, if we still have an issue then, we'll discuss it. But, you know, you never like losing recruits, and you never like losing recruits to Bill Belichick. You know, this is now I'm curious to see what does Bill Belichick's class have, this 2026 class. Has 9 commits currently, and Ruffin is the highest ranked of them all. So, you know, he's a guy, Trashawn Ruffin, that I thought was going to be a real star for the Aggies. I loved the film, and I loved the size and stature. So, I mean, I'm not concerned about the future when it comes to interior defensive line, but it's something you got to monitor. I mean, in the 2025 class, on the defensive line, you got Sims at 6'3", 280 pounds. You've got Sanders at 6'4", 290. And then you've got some other guys in that defensive line room. Landon Rink at a 6'2", 280. But, I mean, you don't really have any of those big, beefy guys that are going to sit in the middle and just take up space. Now, obviously, these players, like all those guys, Sims and Sanders, have the frames. I mean, once again, at 6'4", 290 and 6'3", 280, they have the frames to build that up. But, I mean, something about that Ruffin at 6'3", 307 pounds. I mean, I think that he is a guy that was going to be a really good clog up the middle run stopper. Don't let your guard get up to double teams type of offensive lineman. I think he was going to have that sort of defensive lineman. I think he was going to have that sort of impact for this team, and you lose him. And, you know, I mean, it's funny. I don't know why it feels like it stings more that you lose him to Belichick, but it kind of does. I mean, I'm not excited that Texas A&M is losing recruits to Bill Belichick, but I, for one, am stoked to see what Bill Belichick is going to do in the college game. Hey, let me know y'all's thoughts on that in the YouTube comments. I'm kind of curious, like, are y'all buying in on that? I'm not really sure how it's going to go, but so for Texas A&M to kind of dial this stuff in, they're going to have to go get some more beefy defensive linemen in this 2026 class. I mean, if you really think about what Texas A&M has and what Texas A&M needs in the future, the way I'm sitting and looking at this right now, I mean, quarterback's a spot, you're in a pretty good spot for the future. Running back, you're in a pretty good spot for the future. Receiver, you're in a great spot for the future. Offensive line, I think you're in a good spot for the future. Secondary, you're in a good spot. Linebacker, you're in a pretty good spot. Like, defensive line is a spot you're going to have to focus on. And to me, it's the interior. I mean, you've got great edge rushers coming in last year's class. You got great edge rushers coming in this year's class. You had some good edge rushers in the class from 2 years ago. You've got good edge rushers on this roster, and you will for a long time. But I think that the interior is where we have got to see some players come in and land. So, that is something that I want to see this coaching staff focus on. And one thing that I have time in and time out discussed when talking about this Texas A&M football team is coaching staff, is they always do a good job of whatever they need, they go get it. And I love that in the coaching staff. A lot of times you'll see coaching staffs that, maybe they get too cute going after a position where you're in a pretty good spot, but then you're like, okay, we need linebackers. Go get linebackers. This Texas A&M coaching staff, last year when Elko and his staff first got here, boom, just like that, they immediately go and get some players for the secondary. Then this offseason, they immediately go and get receivers. All of the glaring issues and the glaring needs for this Texas A&M football team, whether in the portal or the high school recruiting ranks or both, this staff has gone and gotten those things. So I think that you're going to see this staff continue to do that. I don't think that's something that's going to change. But Ruffin's a player. I'll just be honest. I hated this loss. I really did. When I saw this on social media, I was really upset about this one. I think he's a player that's going to have he's got the build. He's already, built like a man. A brick crap house. He is in great shape to be an interior defensive lineman in the SEC. Well, of course, now he's going to be in the ACC. But, looking at the future of him, Ruffin, as a player, I think he's the guy that's an NFL guy. And I'll tell you this, I don't know. This is part of the other reason of losing a player to Belichick. And I know that Ruffin is a North Carolina guy, and I understand all that, but it just feels like, man, if one of the greatest all-time NFL coaches is taking a recruit from us, it feels like we missed out on a really good one, So it's hard to not kind of feel that way about losing Ruffin. But this class is still in a pretty good spot. You're sitting in a spot right now where you have how many commits? Is it 7 now? I already forget. It is 7 commits between Jordan Carter, Aaron Gregory, Sammy Moala, Jermaine Kinsler, Madden Williams, Caleb Tafua, and Helman Kasuga, your quarterback. You've got a lot of players within this class. I still think the most interesting part of this class is that you don't have a single player from the state of Texas committed. Now it's early, but still, you want to see Texas A&M start to hammer their own state, knowing it's one of the best places to recruit in the continental United States. But this class is in a good spot. You've already got your quarterback of the future, a guy in Kasuga that I think is going to be pretty darn good. You've got a tight end. You've got a couple receivers. You're doing good on the offensive line. You're doing good on the offensive side. You need some offensive linemen. You need some players in your secondary. You need a couple linebackers. You need a couple defensive linemen. This class is nowhere near done. I expect us to get 15 to 20 commits, of course. You've only got 7 now. So this class is going to get more players. But it's in a good spot right now. But that, to me, is the number one priority right now for this team, is going to get some beef, some big guys for the interior of the Texas A&M defensive line, because it's a spot that I think if you don't hit that out of the park this year, you're desperately going to need it in the portal, because you're going to be losing a lot of guys. You got some veterans and all that. So that is a big position of need for the Aggies. Texas A&M is going to do their spring game. This has been news for a while, but we haven't really discussed it on the show, and I want to talk about it. I like the spring games. There's obviously negatives, but I like the positives, and I want to tell you all why I like it, and we'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Nissan. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new Nissan 2025 Armada. Each week, our Locked On college basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart from top-seeded stars to the unexpected upsets. These guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut team of the week is the Florida Gators. The Gators, led by Walter Clayton Jr., 17 points a game, just dominated the SEC tournament, winning each game by at least 9 points. Not only did Florida grab the 4th one seed, but they are the nation's most efficient offense. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Florida Gators have done here. It's clear that our team of the week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Also want to tell you all about our friends over at Fabric. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. You know, parents always want to make sure their family is financially protected no matter what happens. Fabric gives you that peace of mind. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day, so protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Fabric also offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Price subject to underwriting and health questions. So we are going to talk now a little bit about the spring game. And looking at my opinion on this, I think the spring game creates excitement. It creates excitement. That is what I take away from it. Now, it is funny, obviously, in my line of work in media, yes, spring football games and all that are great because they give us things to talk about. No question there. But at the same time, I do think it is a good thing for the players. I think really the only downside is the chance of injury. And I mean, it obviously happens. I would say it's rare, but it does happen. But I mean, at the end of the day, they'll hurt you. They will hurt you. But I kind of like the idea of it. I mean, we've already seen teams, Texas, Georgia. There are a lot of teams that aren't going. LSU is doing it. There's a lot of teams that have gone away from the spring game, but Texas A&M is going to continue to do it. I'm trying to see if I can find a quote from Coach Elko about that because I know he's talked about it. I've seen him talk about it. But I mean, I just think it's a good thing for the fan base. I really do. I think that you get to come in and see some of these freshmen that are on campus early, which is always exciting. I mean, you're going to get to see in our 2025 class, you're going to get to see some of the players that have already come in and are on campus right now. So players like a Coyote Armstrong, who I'm really excited about, or some of these Sanders and Sims who we just got done talking about. Kelshawn Johnson, I'm looking forward to. You get to see some of these transfers. I mean, what are we going to see from KC Concepcion? What are we going to see from Mario Craver? And what are we going to see from Amari Niblack, who I'm excited about? I've seen some fans in my YouTube comments talking about, Texas A&M fans in the comments talking about, maybe is there a world where Jacob Zeno is the quarterback of the future for Texas A&M, which, of course, as y'all every day are here Locked On Aggies know, I'm not buying that for a second. But at the same time, I am kind of in a spot where I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's see. So I think that you learn some things. I do think you risk the injuries. There's no question that's a negative. There's no question you don't want that. There's no question that, I mean, if Le'Veon Moss or Marcel Reed or Will Lee or Cassius Howell, like one of these players plays in this game and gets hurt and it's like a long-term injury, some kind of tear to something. I don't want to say that obviously tear we're thinking of. You can't have that stuff. You can't have players get hurt. So I understand teams going away from it, but I think it's good for the fans, and I think it builds excitement around the program, and I think that's kind of the reason it's worth it. But, I mean, I'll tell you this, all it takes for me is one Marcel Reed injury, and I'm just saying like a big-time injury that's going to affect your team for the actual season. That's all it takes for me to say, okay, yeah, I'm out on these spring games. I think the other thing I like about the spring games is looking at getting to see the freshmen, getting to see the transfers. I like that. But I think that it's just it's a bonding experience for this team. I think it helps this team be able to see what it's like playing in a game in Kyle Field. I think there are, to me, I think there are a lot of pros and not a lot of cons, but the cons maybe outweigh the pros. So let me know, once again, this is a good, conversation. Let me know in the YouTube comments. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, because I'll be sick. I mean, just sick if you lose an important player in the spring game. But I still think that it's a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, that's kind of the point I'm trying to get across is like, yeah, there's pros to it and there's definitely cons to it. So yeah, I want to hear y'all's thoughts on the spring game in the YouTube comments. The game is going to be on April 19th. Now I'm not trusting my handwriting. I wrote that down and it kind of looks terrible. Let's make sure I'm right about that. So, I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it'll give us a lot of talking points. I think it'll give us a lot of things to look forward to. And maybe we'll get April 19th at 2 p.m. It says we'll get a lot of opportunities to see some of the guys that we're looking forward to and we've talked about. So I am excited about the spring game, and that's the reasons I am pro keeping it around. But once again, let me know in the YouTube comments. Should we do it? Should we not do it? Tell me why in the YouTube comments. We're going to talk about the basketball team. Once again, the tournament is coming up just here in a couple days, and I am going to tell y'all what I think Texas A&M has to do if the Aggies are going to go on a run in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to talk about our friends over at Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right experience at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project for a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who's delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to connect with the top talent and grow your business today. Also, want to show you all our video here from the bracket breakdown. This is going to be something that we're doing pretty much every single week here with on Locked On. It's something that you're potentially going to see me go on if the Aggies make a run. It's a really fun thing that is going to be a lot of fun to watch over the next few weeks for the bracket. So let's go ahead and take a look at this promo.
The NCAA Tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA Tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
So the Texas A&M basketball team is, of course, getting ready to take on Yale in the NCAA tournament. That game's on Thursday at 7:25 Eastern, 6:25 Central. And I'll tell you what, You never like being the game that is like everyone is predicting the upset game. Now, the question to me is Yale actually that good, or did they just upset Auburn last year? So now everyone's saying, oh, well, Yale is really good and they're going to go beat Texas A&M because they beat Auburn last year. I'm not sure if I'm buying that quite yet. I do think that Yale's a good basketball team. There's no question that Yale is a good basketball team, but they're not a better team than Texas A&M. So what does Texas A&M have to do for this team to go on a run in the NCAA tournament? There's a few things. And the first thing is one player is going to have to get hot, but hot in the right way. I would love for that to be Wade Taylor. I mean, this is it for him. And it would be great to see him have a really good season where he is, a really good tournament where he's shooting the ball well and he's efficient. I think if he can give you a couple of those Wade Taylor games where he goes 8 for 14 and gives you 26 points, he does a couple of those with how good Texas A&M is defensively, this team is capable of going on a run in the NCAA tournament. The defense, though, I'll tell you this, it has had its fair share of struggles. It's had its fair share of struggles of late, of course. I'm talking about of late. It's had its fair share of struggles. So, and looking at the way that we have seen the Aggies play of late, if they can't fix those defensive issues, I'll have some concerns. I don't know how much I'm counting the Texas game as defensive concerns because of the double overtime, and the LSU game was great, and the Auburn game was great. But, you've had some games over the last 2 months where, Vandy puts up a lot of points. Tennessee has a good offensive game. We've seen some not great defensive games from a great defensive team. I loved what we saw against Auburn. I love what we saw against LSU. But then that game against Texas was a little bit frustrating. Obviously, a good amount of points came in overtime, but still, this defense has to be good. If it's not good, this team won't go on a run. And then the offensive rebounding has to continue to be dominant. The Aggies are the best in all college basketball for a reason. They need to do a good job of being able to get on the boards, stay on the boards, dominate the boards, and not just on the offensive end. We need to see Texas A&M dominate all over the boards on all ends of the floor. So want to see Texas A&M dominate on the boards, want to see them continue to play good defense. But at the end of the day, offense is going to be what makes or breaks Texas A&M's chances of making a run in the tournament. And that means Manny Obaseki, Payne, obviously Wade Taylor. That means these guys, Andy Garcia has been shooting the ball well of late. That means that these guys need to get going. So, Andy Garcia, for a guy who averages 5.9 points a game on the season, his last 5 games, 13 points, 8 points, 11 points, 9 points, 8 points. So he's giving you a little bit more offense. You need to see some more offense out of this team if they're going to do it, if they're going to go on a run. But, I've said you have a solid draw. You're in that draw where if you find a way to get the win over the Yale Bulldogs, you move on. And then you're going to play in that game where some people say, well, I don't know, could we see an upset? And then if you see that upset, you have a chance to play a team that I think Texas A&M can beat if they end up playing Michigan or, of course, the Santa Barbara, San Diego? I'm filling my bracket today. Let me pull up the actual name of this team. UC San Diego. Yeah. So if you win, I think Michigan or UC San Diego are both beatable for you, especially in the round of 32. And then if you get Auburn in that Sweet 16, we know what Texas A&M and Buzz have proven they can do against Auburn. So if this offense plays well, if the Aggies shoot the ball well, they've been shooting the ball pretty good of late. They play some good defense and rebound the ball. They can win some games going on in this tournament. So that is what has to happen. Of course, we will continue to preview this tournament. We'll talk about Yale more tomorrow. And of course, we'll preview the game on Thursday. We have a lot more previewing to go here But that's going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Aggies podcast. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.